All right. Hello, everybody. This is Michelle Tandler. Um, I recently had a thread go viral on X, and so I want to make sure that everyone has the ability to access it. A lot of people don't have accounts on X, so I'm going to read through the thread and put this on YouTube. Okay, let's dive in. A few months ago, I dug into C. Weaver's Twitter history because she was Mamdani's housing advisor. I had a hunch she might get a position on his team. Well, she did, and she deleted her X account accordingly. However, I took some screenshots. Let's dig in. All right, this is the first screenshot she wrote in 2018. There is no such thing as a good gentrifier, only people who are actively working on projects to dismantle white supremacy and capitalism, and people who aren't. All right, for context, this woman was just selected by Mayor Mamdani to be the director of the newly revitalized Mayor's Office to Protect Tenants. According to NewYorkCity.gov, the revitalized Office to Protect Tenants will serve as a central coordinating body to defend tenants' rights, stand up to landlords, and ensure city agencies act swiftly on behalf of renters facing unsafe or illegal conditions. Right. And there is the link to the press release, which I'll include in the show notes here. Okay, so what are her beliefs? 1, public housing for everyone. Public housing for everyone. 2, rent control and public housing for everyone. Rent control and public housing for everyone. Massive government interventions to solve gentrification. Okay, what else? She believes rent control is a perfect solution to everything, and rent control is a more effective way to shrink the value of real estate than reducing rezoning applications. And we're going to get more to that at the end of this thread. This shrinking the value of real estate is a really interesting thing for her to say. Okay, continuing on. Just in case you missed that. Yes, she wants to shrink the value of real estate. She said, I think pass really strong rent control is a more effective way to shrink the value of real estate than reducing rezoning applications. Next up, views on white people. She writes, this country built wealth for white people through genocide, slavery, stolen land, and labor. White supremacy built the North and the South. She also wrote, private property, including and kind of especially homeownership, is a weapon of white supremacy, masquerading as wealth-building public policy. And she also wrote, gentrification narratives are pretty tired and not helpful anymore. Gentrification is caused by rent-seeking developers and landlords and policymakers that enable them. It's part of a centuries-long process of white supremacy in the housing and land market. The rules are designed for white people. The Manhattan Institute legitimizes white supremacy and broken windows. All right. In the meantime, new and white residents are going to benefit as the whole city is planned around their interests. Saying hi or not saying hi to your neighbor doesn't undo that. And then she has another one here. White nationalism is a disease and it's killing us. Okay. What else? She writes, but also endorse a no more white men in office platform and no more reality TV stars for that matter. Impoverish the white middle class. Home ownership is racist and failed public policy. I found this one absolutely fascinating. She wants to impoverish the white middle class. Very destructive statement right there. Whereas, home ownership is racist, right? Okay, by the way, I believe a third of Black people in New York City own their own homes and 20% of Hispanics. Warning, this one is creepy. Okay, she says, really needing to repress the desire for revenge right now. I wish I believed in God so I could believe that all men who take credit for women's work and all white men who take credit for the work of women of color would one day burn. No comment there. Apparently, she even wants white people to stop reproducing and be banned from planes. She writes, I just came across a mob of 11-year-old white boy children rapping Eminem very loud in Windsor Terrace. And to be honest, I don't know why we keep procreating. She also wrote, at Delta should kick all white people in Christmas outfits off planes. All right. In addition to disliking, hating white people, she is a passionate socialist. So she wrote, we can and should raise expectations that we all live in green, beautiful public housing. Not convinced that stopping development after development builds our movement or advances socialism like rent control does. All right. And lastly, C. Weaver and her boss, Mayor Mamdani, apparently see eye to eye on many things. He wrote in 2020, people often ask what socialists mean when we say we want to decommodify housing. He continues, basically, we want to move away from a situation where most people access housing by purchasing it on the market and toward a situation where the state guarantees high quality housing to all. I would love for Mayor Mamdani to focus on the, I believe, 180,000 units of NYCHA. That's the New York City Housing Authority. They're in horrible shape. I believe there's something like tens of billions of dollars worth of required maintenance. Anyway, love to see them take the current stock of housing and make sure that it's high quality for all. All right, I ended my thread with just some questions. Does she work effectively with white people despite her views about them? Does she see homeownership as having any validity in building wealth? Does she really hope we all live in government housing? And any thoughts on the Constitution? Actually, relatedly to that, I pulled up my copy of the Constitution here. I'd like to read aloud Amendment 5, which was ratified in 1791. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. Okay, now we're getting to the important part. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. All right, so this is important. Why? Because we need to see what C. Weaver thinks about confiscating private property. This video clip was astounding. I am going to play it for you. I hope this sound works here. All right, let's try this.
$5 billion, we hope to be able to set up and staff the agency, but also build new housing across the state, as well as acquire distressed housing across the state. The mechanisms for acquiring distressed housing could look different on a building-by-building basis. In some cases, what happens is tenants form a tenant association, they have a SCASA landlord or someone who's not making repairs, and they could pressure, using organizing tactics, they could pressure to this social housing development authority to take over their homes, to buy their homes. In other cases, it might happen through the legal process. A couple of days ago, one of the most notorious slumlords in the city, his name is Oak Shalom. He was arrested because he is treating his tenants so badly, hundreds of thousands of open code violations. In cases like that, where the city is actively pursuing already certain litigation and enforcement mechanisms against the landlord, the SHDA is an option. We can say, hey, you are not maintaining this building, and we are the city of New York. We have an interest in making sure that housing is well maintained, and we're going to take this building away.
All right, just to replay that last part again.
You are not maintaining this building, and we are the city of New York. We have an interest in making sure that housing is well maintained, and we're going to take this building away.
Okay, so this is key. You are not maintaining this building. We are the city of New York, and we are going to take this building away from you. Okay, I'm going to play another clip from the same podcast. This was recorded, I think, about a year ago. Okay, here's another clip.
To me, offers an opportunity to take those existing programs and sort of supercharge them so that we can be supporting tenants and moving faster than our existing programs to bring things in and to, take over a lot of distressed housing. In some cases, yes, I think we're imagining that the city, that the Social Housing Development Authority would pay a market transaction for that building. But there's all sorts of things that organized tenants can do to drive down that market price, especially if, we have strong rent controls, we are discouraging speculation through other public policy. Tenants are suing the landlord, so this case is the building is less attractive to other market participants because, there's a lot of liability associated with the lawsuit. And so there's things that organized tenants can do to sort of make a deal more possible. And that's the kind of organizing that's going to have to happen in order to make the SHDA live up to the vision.
Okay, so basically what she's saying here
those existing.
is the vision is for the city to take possession of all these buildings. And the way they're going to do that is by, what did she say? Uh, yeah, take over a bunch of distressed housing. So there's lots of things that organized tenants can do to drive down the market price. So she's talking about lawsuits and complaints. Basically, um, they've set rent control, which makes it very difficult, or rent stabilization, which is similar to rent control. It blocks the price increases that a landlord can make. And so if they do this, then have a bunch of code requirements, they can basically say to landlords, you're not fixing up your building sufficiently. We're going to fine you. Then if you don't pay your fines, we're going to take the building. And this is sort of their grand scheme, apparently, for how to have the city own more housing. I think this, to me, seems deeply unconstitutional. I think it would be quite ironic if uh, C. Weaver and Zohran Mamdani end up creating such a ruckus that this lands in the Supreme Court on a rent control case. This is definitely, new things happening in New York City. I'm very interested to see where this all goes next. But one thing's for sure, we definitely have some very radical, hard left people entering our government that are explicitly stating that they want the government to take over rental units. So this is a topic I'll continue digging into. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for reading along with me. This is my first time ever reading aloud one of my threads like this. So I'd love to know what you think. Please feel free to leave a comment either on X, my DMs are open, or here on YouTube. All right. Thank you again.